It is in a lot of ways the opposite of Romeo and Juliet, which was written by an English writer about an Italian family, and this, of course, written by, the opera composed by an Italian composer about Scottish families. But there are a lot of similarities in the plot. Transitioning to our production, directed by Elkanah Pulitzer, and I think what you'll see in our production as the kind of primary visual aesthetic is a stunning use of contrast, both in color, in lighting, in the division of space, a contrast between what is real and what is not real through use of projections and other visual effects. And I wanted to invite Elkanah to come and speak a little bit about this particular production, the aesthetic of it, how she conceived of telling this story in this way. So without further ado, Elkanah.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to share a little bit about how this production evolved from the beginning of the invitation to come make this piece to now we're on stage and solidifying the final looks of the piece. In the very beginning, the first time we see Lucia on stage, there's a famous harp introduction, and that harp is about water, and it's meant to signify La Fonte, which is where she's meeting her lover. And her first aria in the piece is also about the water. And so for me, emotionally, I connect personally with the water. I love swimming in it, and the feeling of abandon and a place of escape from gravity and the world of shoulds and musts. And so for me, I felt like Lucia and her imagination is drawn to that water as a source of escape from the confinement and constriction of the life that she leads. And so that was the central way into the piece, was through water. The other aspect was that it's a piece about a woman in a time in history where she was conscripted and forced into a marriage against her will to a man that she doesn't love. And so it's hard to do that in modern dress, especially in a Western culture where we don't really subscribe to that kind of life anymore. And so I selected 1885 as the era for the piece because of the tectonic changes that were going on in the UK at that time in terms of the Industrial Revolution, and then also just the sheer impact of corseting and bustles and the constriction, literally and figuratively, of that kind of dress. And also it's still an era where women were without the rights that they have now. Anyone who saw the Ken Burns prohibition, you'll know that the temperance leagues were the first sort of seeds of what would later become the full suffragette movement. And those were all happening around that time, late 1800s, because of the violence towards women as a result of numerous issues that were going on at the time. But anyhow, so that was the reason I picked 1885. And then another component to the approach to the piece, beyond water, was that I knew from the get-go that we wanted to have it be in a world of projections, because we're dealing with a woman who goes mad, and so there needed to be a representation of the internal versus the external world, how she perceives things around her, what's solid and what is in her imagination and therefore possibly liquefies. So that was the, I don't want to give too much away. I hope people are going to come and see the piece, but that's what we're playing with in terms of the projections, is the emotions of color, staunch and strict environment in which she is conscripted into a marriage that she doesn't want, and then how she responds to that in terms of her imagination and, out of necessity, her psychic break and escape from the calamity of her situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So as Elkanah mentioned, Lucia is most well known, the opera is most well known, and for its final scene, often called the mad scene, in which this woman that we meet early on and see that there is the potential for this to happen. We spend the next 3 hours indeed watching it happen.